Hey guys, CCJ here for the type of video that we have not done in like a hot little minute. Yeah, it's been a bit since we've done this. And this time we are going way back in the closet or my backlist to the very beginning, the very first book I ever wrote, Love and Other Things. So over the years, I feel like I have just made it no secret that this book is, I don't know, I'm a hater when it comes to this book because I just know that it's not my best, it's not the best that I can do, etc., etc., etc. But it was to the point that I didn't even open this book. I avoided talking about this book. Really, I avoided reading excerpts or anything like that from this book. I just had it built up in my head that this book sucked. It's the first thing that I ever wrote. How could it possibly be any good? And so for my Book of the Month Club, which is exclusively for people who are part of my Patreon. I'm actually going to be chatting with them here in just a few minutes. We have our first Book of the Month chat, and we are talking about this book because I figured, okay, it's been long enough. It's time to go ahead, put on your big girl panties, get over whatever secondhand embarrassment, and just read the freaking book, Christina. What is the worst that could happen? Like, you have to understand, this book is some people's favorite project of mine. 8 years into this thing, 70 some odd projects later, this is what they want to talk to me about. So it can't be that bad. So I read it, and I was right. It's not that bad. Like, I was playing, but it is giving amateur. She's giving first thing we ever wrote. She's giving not enough for y'all to still be talking about this is your favorite thing I ever wrote. Like, really? It's a little hurtful. But no, in all seriousness, I'm glad that I feel that way about this book, because can you imagine writing a book and then 8 years later feeling like, damn, that was the best of me. Like, I peaked right there. Like, I'm never going to do anything better than that. I am so glad that it was a struggle for me to read this book. I'm glad that there were so many places where I was like, why? And not even so much the subject matter, even though, like, there's so much. There is so much in this book. People getting shot, people getting assaulted, maternity loss, cheating husbands. Like, there's so much. Like, there's so much in not a lot of pages. How many pages is this? It's just under 200 pages. It's 193 pages, and there is so much stuff in there. So many continuity errors where I'm just like, Christina, what on earth were you doing? But I would not take back a single thing. I wouldn't take back a single thing. I would take back some things. But you know what? It's okay, because there are plenty of lessons for me. If you hadn't gotten this CCJ, you would have not gotten Love Notes. You would have not gotten Equivalent Exchange or Anti-Up or Prior Affair or any of these other projects of mine where I feel like I really pulled something out and really came out of my shell to really, to really pull out some emotions and really pull out the characters and pull out the story. None of that would be if it wasn't for this. So I'm not going to hate on this anymore. I'm not going to hate on this anymore, because if it wasn't for this, none of it would be. When I was pregnant for the first time with my older daughter, I got very sick with something called hyperemesis gravidarum. Pretty sure that I literally willed myself to stay alive so that I could have my daughter. That's just how sick I was. Nothing worked, nothing, there were so many times where I was basically threatened with hospital stays et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because I could not keep anything down. I could not keep even a prenatal vitamin down. I could not keep water down. I was so sick. And according to the doctor, it was just like, it's kind of a fluke. It happens sometimes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When I got pregnant again with my second daughter, it happened again. And so now I'm going through this very same thing, but with a small child. So I'm pregnant and I'm sick and I have a child and I have to do something that is going to keep me that's going to keep me because there's so much going on, too much going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so at the time I was a mommy blogger. Some of you may remember. And I had met some really wonderful friends through that. One of them specifically named Chrissy, who Kristin in the book is named after. She and I started writing. Like we would go back and forth. We would write. We both, had these stories. We both grown up loving to write. And so we wrote. And I ended up finding a writers group to be part of as well. And through my friendship with Kristin and the relationship that I developed with the ladies from the writers group, one of them who you guys may know very well, Miss Nicole Falls, just through those relationships, I kept pushing, I kept working, I just kept moving forward. And eventually I had a book and I also had a baby. Both of those things survived that time. There was never a moment where I expected any of this, where I expected that these little words in here were going to be the start of a whole career, a career that I've had for nearly a decade at this point. That little girl is going to be 9 years old this year. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's really been a journey. And I'm grateful to this book. I'm grateful to this book because if it was not for the words here, for the lessons that I was taught very early on through the publishing process about who to trust, whose opinion to listen to, down to things like there was a point where I stripped all of the sex scenes out because I was afraid of what my church family was gonna say if they read it and there was these explicit sex scenes in there between people who were not married. What would they say? What would they think? And I stripped all of that out and it didn't feel like me anymore. And so I went back and I put them all back in. This book went through so many different iterations to be what it is, this thing that I'm like, ugh, about. But this is what started it all. And so, yeah, I can't hate on this anymore. I can't hate on this anymore. I have to start moving forward with this proudly. I might make a few edits. Like like I said, there's some continuity errors that I might, we might have to make some adjustments to. But, I say that it didn't give what it was supposed to give. And maybe from a technical standpoint, maybe it doesn't. But in terms of everything else, in terms of what it has done for my life, what it has done for my career, which was not even a consideration at this time. Like I never would have imagined what this started. Who would have thought, in all those other aspects, teaching me how to weave a story together. I'm not saying I did it the best, but I am saying that I was like, okay, let's get interesting. Let's get interesting and let's get ugly. Let's dive into some ugliness. Like I've always been willing to go there ever since the very beginning. So it did give what it was supposed to give. Okay. But all right, I really gotta go. I'm going to be talking, like I said, talking to my patrons about this in like 25 minutes. And so I really do need to go ahead and let this go so that I can get set up for that. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in and I'll see you next time. Bye.